Can you remember when you first made the All Blacks? Was there a moment where you sat down and went, "On here"?
The first trial I couldn't play in because I got the flu. And then I got in the Palmerston North trials and got in the North Island team. And you're down there with all these, the Bob Duffs and all the guns, Tiny White, and I always thought I could play better than some of them, that sort of thing. But you never got picked in it, so it was a little bit disappointing, sort of thing. But you think, well, oh, bloody show you fellas, and so that you get the opportunity the next year, and so that's when it all came along. There was opening there for young fellas to go to Australia, and that's where a lot of us, the Winnerays and myself, and all came into on the scene, sort of thing. And so it was a great experience, and you just never forget those things. And
I've seen the guys, when they get their first jersey, and they just had that moment though where they just look at it and go, "I'm here," And did you have a moment like that?
Well, we sort of never got it till we got over to Australia. But my worry was I'd get hurt before I played because I'd read about other All Blacks being picked and then never play for the country.
Yeah.
And we had about 2 weeks, I think, before we went away, 2 or 3, and we had to be told we had to play club rugby and all. God, here I was trying to hide from everything, keep away from everything, because I was scared I was going to get hurt. We got to Australia and Dick Everest had somehow arranged another extra game. It was never classed as a first-class game, but it was my first game for the All Blacks as far as I was concerned. And I can remember sitting in the dressing room next to Winneray, and I said, I'm bloody desperate to get out there and start so I can say I've been an All Black. I'm scared I'm going to break my leg, fall over or something going out there. And then you'll find out afterwards that it wasn't even a first-class game. So, but it was, that was it. But it wasn't so much, it was when you put the jersey on. To me, that was now. And every time you go to put that jersey on, right through my career, it was always, you don't come second in this one, boy.
Yeah. I remember you and I were on a committee meeting about whether they're going to let them put Steinlager on the jersey. And I was saying, I was against it and I was arguing, and I looked to you for support. And you said, look, they can wear pink bloody jersey if they want to. It's the prick that's wearing it, not the jersey. Completely swung my argument apart. It's like, oh, if Colin thinks it's okay, it's okay.
I was never one to take the jersey to bed and all that sort of thing. A lot of them put it on and slept in it and all this sort of thing. I wasn't. That was on the field. And I would never wear an All Black jersey at training. And there was All Blacks, they've been All Blacks for a long time. They always wear an All Black jersey at training. I thought, geez, I was disgusted with it. I thought, that's not on. You only wear that on the bloody, when you're playing for your country. You don't train in the bloody thing.
So, Colin, when you're a young fella, what were the qualities that your parents told you that were important? What were the things that they taught you?
Oh, just to enjoy it, you can't remember a lot of your young days. You just played at school, you played rugby, but like at Te Kuiti, you either had rugby in the winter or cricket in the summer, and you just took part in it. And I was never a big boy at school. I was always a little fella, and all my schoolboy rugby was at hooker. And, but I loved it, and we used to have to, if Dad was too busy, Mum would bring us everywhere. And right through till I was, 17 or 18, Mum would bring us to practice and all those sort of things. And so they were always part of it, and they were always never say, you can't go or anything like that. They always helped you along.
Were your parents strict on you? Did they were they tough at home?
Oh, I think it was pretty hard times, and I can remember getting home late from a rugby game when we used to bike in as third grades. That means I would have been about 15 or 16, and I stayed in town far too long. It wasn't the happiest family at home. When I got home there, I got a good telling off, but it didn't bash you around or anything like that. They just made you punctual and all those sort of things, and discipline, yeah.
What about working in the farm? I mean, you brought up on the farm. What were the things that was important to your dad there in terms of?
Oh, just getting things done. Because we had a farm that was a lot of broken hilly country, and we milked cows just for a living in the bottom of it. So we'd milk the cows early in the morning and then go out and do things on the farm, or the fencing. So that was our occupation for a long part of the summers, was, get the milking done and then go and cut scrub and all those sort of things.
What did that teach you?
It taught us hard work. It taught us that, to try and set targets, how far we can get, in each day and that sort of thing, and scrub. And Stan and I used to be very competitive, and we'd both be chopping against one another sort of thing. And I can always remember, we followed, Stan was probably more so than me, he followed the All Blacks and idolised them. Stan could name every All Black in the 49 team, pick up a photo and name the whole lot of them. And we did things at the All Black style, like Bob Scott said, every player should be able to kick with both feet. And we'd be out in the paddocks kicking with our left foot, just because Bob Scott said so. So it was a competitive sort of a thing, but it was all based around farming and hard work.
You're talking about rugby in the winter and cricket in the summer. I can't really imagine you as a cricketer. Did you play with a cricket?
Oh, we played, yeah, a little bit. I always thought I was a fast bowler, but running from about 20 yards out and it'd piddle down the other end. But no, I never took it serious, cricket at all. But rugby was always pretty serious for us, and you start to learn about rugby and team efforts and team sport, and that's where you got some good coaching and that sort of thing.
Well, how important was being part of a team to you? Was that something?
Oh, it was always important, and I think we were lucky. My first coach at that level was a chap called Ron Bryars. He took New Zealand Maoris away to Australia and coached Bay of Plenty after he left King Country. But when he was in King Country, he was an All Black in 49. One team the main teams went to South Africa. The third team sort of went to Australia, and he was in that team. He coached every team in King Country, whether it was the seniors or the juniors or the third grades or the primary schools. He coached a lot, and he was just a marvellous man.
What did he teach you?
Well, he taught us discipline. He taught us that, you had to be team and team efforts and those sort of things, and everyone was treated equal, sort of thing.
So when you had him as a coach, the fact that he was an All Black, I mean, what did that mean to you as kids?
It just meant the desire to be an All Black become greater, through him coaching, and it was always there in behind everything. You never thought you'd ever get it, and because as you grow up, you change positions, and at one stage I thought I was a George Nola off the back of the line house, and all that, you go through all those stages. And I once remember Bill Clark was one of the great loose forwards, and I was playing, and he had a white headgear, so I went and bought a white headgear, and the local coach here told me I was in a sub-union team, and he told me, chuck that white headgear away, you're too conspicuous.
I remember Zinzan telling me one day that he always thought All Blacks were giants until the day he let Sid going, and then he realised that, that it was a possibility that he might get there.
Yeah,
can you remember when you sort of thought that dream of being an All Black might be a possibility?
Well, I was lucky enough to go to Ceylon in 55, and JJ Stewart was our coach in that team, and I can always remember when he came back, he was interviewed, and he named about 6 players he thought would be All Blacks, and I wasn't one of them. And I always it made me more determined. It made me think, I'll show you, sort of thing.
One of my favourite stories that you told me was when you came up against Keith Murdoch in the trials.
Yeah, in 1960, yeah. Well, I'd been in the All Blacks a long time then, and, the new fellas come along, and rightly so, they have the older ones on. It was no different to me. It was when you were playing against the gun players, you have them on, and they had two teams, possibles, probables, and it was the final trial to go to South Africa in 70, but he was meant to be in the team the year before, but got taken away on a boat, fishing boat, and some of his escapades. And I tell stories about that. He became a cook on a fishing vessel, was away for a fortnight, so he missed the trials. But he was standing at 4 in the line out, and he was just pulling my arm away. Well, I'd been in the All Blacks for a long time and used to just tell these young fellas, hey, I wouldn't do that again if I was you. He'd just look at me, and I had to tell him that suddenly, after doing it 3 or 4 times, I'd heard all these stories about how tough and rugged he was, and so I ended up telling him I'd knock his bloody head off if he did that again. He'd just look at me and he'd say, have a go. And it wasn't the reply I wanted, sort of thing. I thought I'd talk my way out of it. And then I always can remember, other players are like, get into a bit of trouble at times and that sort of thing, and you can help them out, sort of thing. And I can always remember the old Skip Winneray, and they'd take to him in South Africa in 60, and I'd just say, get your head out of the road, Skip, I'll fix him. Well, I only said get your head out of the road because the first time I did it, I hit him. But it was a great story, and it's elaborated. But it ended up I got myself into a situation where I had to do it myself, and even though I was captain, and I thought, I'm not even a bloody good captain, because Winneray'd tell you to do something and you'd do it straight away. And I'll never forget his reaction. I thought I'd put him, he'd be down, but I had broken knuckles and all sorts of things. He reeled back and shook his head, and I know there was 3 or 4 minutes to go. That clock at the athletic park down the far corner, I'm watching that. So you call the team in and make out a good captain, and I give them a lecture, and I said I'd had a message from the selectors, and you used to get messages in trials. They'd wander up and down the sideline, talk bullshit, And so I said, the message is they want to see the wingers and the centres running with the ball more. And, just spin it around. We only got 4 minutes to go. They want to see more of the wingers. And I said, no one is to kick it out. Don't you kick it out. I didn't want to get back to a line out, you see. So it ended up, they kicked it out once, the opposition did. And that didn't worry. I'm captain, so we had a long throw into the second 5/8, and I'm outside him. And I'll never forget the relief you get when the final whistle goes and you look up and this Murdoch's coming straight towards me. And, those beetle brows he had. I said to the fellas, better stay close here, might be a bit of trouble, all these stories come flooding back. Well, he come up to me and he put his hand out. I grabbed it and I shook the hell out of it. And he said to me, your king hit is not working. And quick as a flash, I said to him, it was just a warning.
So were people like him important in your career, that, and not just Keith, but anyone that could handle the fairness of being an All Black, that could prove themselves that they were up to it? Was that something you respected?
Yeah, there was a lot of players who annoyed you as All Blacks because they wouldn't train hard or they wouldn't be serious about it, and especially on the long tours, you'd get a long tour because we'd be away for 4 or 5, nearly 5 months on one trip I went on, and you get to stages where everything just becomes routine, and they don't do anything with any effort or anything like that. They just go through the motions, and those sort of fellows would upset me, and the ones that don't try, because once you're an All Black, you're playing for your country, and if a selector told you to run 100 miles, you'd run 100 miles, sort of thing. But I can remember in South Africa in 70 with Ivan Vodanovich, he was fitter than half the players in the forwards. We'd be a dirt tracker because I had my broken arm there for a while, and we dirt trackers would go. The morning of a game when the team weren't training, he'd look at a hill or something in the tent. He'd look at a hill way up there. Right, we're going up there. I've worked out a track up there, and we're going up there, and we all stick together. We get up this. way to hell in the distance. And then when we get up there, you'd say, now it's a race home. Well, you could go around the road or you could go across the paddocks, which is rocks and snakes. So I'll never forget it. I won that going home. But Ivan Vodanovich came about third. And, to me, a lot of the other players were trying to get in the testing. They just waddled in 3 or 4 minutes later. And if it was a race home, they weren't racing. To me, that was Lahore and I were first and second. We were both not playing that day. And those sort of things annoyed me with a lot of players. And they were good players too, some of them.
And as a father, I mean, do you expect people to put the effort in?
Oh, of course you do. Yeah. And if no matter what you do, everyone's different. Whether it's with your family, and that sort of thing. And I wasn't a great father because all my early career, we had a young family when, I was only 21 or 22 when I had my first child. Werner was mum, dad, and everything a lot of the time, but they were always looked after and always got to training and played. And you encouraged them. And I can always remember Glenn, he'd come back, he'd schoolboy, like Colin Meads, son, he playing on the wing. And I thought, oh. But I never, ever said anything about it. I said, as long as you enjoy it, you go out and play your best and enjoy it. And eventually come round to being a forward.
I love the fact that you're embarrassed by the fact that your son's playing on the wing as opposed to playing soccer.
Oh, well, I always encourage kids because I've got a grandson who played soccer.
Yeah.
And I said, they said, not going to upset. I said, no, for as long as you play a sport. And I tell them all to, because most of my grandchildren are granddaughters and they've all played their netball and their sports and one or two have done pretty well. So that's, it makes me feel good.
Where do you find happiness?
Oh, happiness at this stage of life? Having a few beers with your mates and talking rubbish. And happiness is, I've always enjoyed a few beers all my life, and I'm worried about my health that somewhere a specialist going to say you've got to stop drinking. But I do feel that you've got to enjoy things. I do a fair bit of public speaking and I do a hell of a lot for charities. And I often say to Werner, I often sit there and say, why the hell am I doing this? And then after it's all over, you think, well, that was good. That's good for the Cancer Society or for the IHC or for the Rugby Foundation. That got them a few bob and a bit of that. So I've done a hell of a lot for charities. And when after it's all over, you say to yourself, well, it wasn't too bad. You meet a lot of new people and you have a good time and drink too much beer and all those things go with it, but it's all good.
Growing up and even now, is there anything that scares you?
Well, it scares me that I mightn't be able to have a few drinks. But, not really. Nothing much scares you too much. There's nothing, you live in a small country area and nothing too much around here scares you. I'd be more scared if I lived in Auckland and the traffic up there. That scares hell out of me. I've got to go up there. In actual life, no, nothing much scares me. But Auckland traffic scares hell out of me.
I mean, the thing it's been a while since I've been down to Te Kuiti, but I mean, I forgot just how beautiful it is down there. It's a beautiful place, and it's you have plenty of opportunities to move out of here, but this is hard. Yeah, is this where you find peace? Is Te Kuiti where you find peace?
I do, and Werner does too. Especially we bought a place at Papamoa, or too late in life, I'll have to admit that, because living here as a youngster and everything, we never went to the beaches for holidays or anything like that. And as a young fellow, I'd have loved to have had a go at surfing, things like that. But we bought a Papamoa to retire there. That was the original plan. And then when it came to selling what bit of the farm we had left, Werner said to me, I don't want to live over here. All our friends are in Te Kuiti, all the grandchildren are there. And she used to do a lot of babysitting, for Shelley and them. They were away at meetings and drop the kids up there or pick them up at 10 o'clock and all this sort of thing. Verna used to love that, and sort of thing. So we never ever, once we did sell the farm, I had to buy a house in Te Kuiti because we weren't going to live at Papamoa.
But what is it about Te Kuiti that you love so much? What is
Well, I think it's just the peace. As I say to people, we've got no traffic lights here. We've got, and you know a big percentage of the people. The younger ones now, I don't know, but it's all g'day Pine Tree. That's Colin Meads, they yell out to you, and it's just nice to be in Te Kuiti and be Colin Meads rather than the All Black. Go to the club and no one shouts you any beers. You've got to buy your own or shout them. You go to Auckland, everyone's shouting you. Yeah, well, most of the time.
growing up on the farm? What did you take from that to your All Black career?
The thing I remember about growing up the most is rugby was a blessing. For with Dad, I could never have gone away and played golf. He wouldn't have allowed that, sort of thing. And I would never have been able to take a couple of days off and go and watch a cricket test or something like that. It was just sort of a work thing, and if there was a social on, you were allowed to come to town to that, but you were meant to be working next day, sort of thing. And so rugby was a way out. You used to pray for rugby to come round because you could have all the time off you liked as long as it was with rugby.
And the last question, what do you think? New Zealand's a different place now to the New Zealand you grew up, obviously. What do you think of New Zealand now?
Oh, well, I worry about where the game's going. I worry about all the changes in the rules, and mainly because I can't understand half it. The rucks and mauls, the referees don't know either. Like, they're penalising. Players are looking at them and they're shaking their head because they don't know either. It's a confusing game now, and used to be a lot more simple game to play in the 60s. But I still think it's the great game, and we still admire our McCaws and the Carters and the great players. And I'm a Whitelock fan now, and that's just because he's a good lock and a good player. But the game's changed so much. They've got bigger. They've got, I presume they're stronger. They tell us they are. And they're all gymnasium trained now. Well, see, I never went to a gymnasium in my life. So it's a different game, and they build them up to, and they're real supermen.